Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. Now, over the past week, governors in the country's southern regions, 17 of them actually met in Asaba, the Delta State capital, to find a common solution to the issue of insecurity in the region and indeed across the country. At the end of that meeting, the governors announced their resolutions, which of course, have now been generating or have been christened the Asaba Accord and, of course, generating a lot of reaction. Now, notable among the resolutions include the call for national dialogue, the ban on open grazing in the region, a strict adherence to the policy of federal character in the interest of national unity, state policing, and much more. But one point that has been generating a lot of reaction is the call for restructuring. Let's just take a lesson here to the governor of Ondo State and the chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum, who read the resolutions on behalf of his colleagues.
The meeting expressed grave concern on the security challenge currently plaguing the nation and strongly urged Mr. President that Mr. President should address Nigerians on the challenges of insecurity and restore the confidence of our people, that the progress of the nation requires that urgent and bold steps be taken to restructure the Nigerian Federation, leading to the evolution of state police, review of revenue formula in favor of subnationals, and creation of other institutions which legitimately advance our commitment to and practice of true federalism.
Well, joining me now on the program to discuss these issues further is Rev Ladi Thompson, who is a clergyman and also a security consultant. Thank you very much, for joining us on the program. First off, what's your overall take on the outcome of that meeting, the resolutions read by the governor there?
Well, if I consider political correctness, I would want to say some safe things to you. But if I look at the consequences of what we are doing unknowingly, I would assure you that it will not take us more than 6 months to discover that we did not take a step in the right direction, if I want to speak bluntly. And if perhaps this is a challenge to you, I will say to you straight away that I have said over and over again that no medical doctor can prescribe a cure anywhere until he has gotten an accurate diagnosis. Yes. Now, if you ask me, I will tell you something. On 8th October 1968, Obafemi Awolowo, whose architecture of thought is yet to be equaled by the combination of the governors put together. On the 8th of October 1968, he said something. He said that the welfare and the happiness of the peoples of Nigeria are indivisible. And he said so also are their misfortunes and their adversities. He said there are two things that must be immediately be put into place. First of all, he said we must seek to arrest the process of the disintegration of Nigeria and unite it. And of course, the second thing he mentioned was that we must put an end to the what we use, internecine hostilities and recrudescent hostilities. He said there are many needless wars, many needless hostilities that keep recurring within Nigeria. Now, I want to further push this, that the same Obafemi Awolowo, when he said that to us, did not even reckon with the present challenge we are having, which is deadlier than all the other challenges that we have had put together. And I'm saying to you that if we really want to halt these problems, the minimum is that we have allowed ourselves, because of the use of terror, the clinical use of terror, has taken the Southwest especially and lowered its ability to think right. There are a lot of arguments and things we are involving ourselves in that if the Awolowo type of thought process was available, we would not even touch them at all. Number one, we have been assailed as a nation by a supremacist program with a religious cover. We have been assailed by a brilliant, cruel, unmerciful, unrelenting war form that uses terror as a clinical instrument. And what has happened to us is that because the terror has been very well used, the country is entering a panic mode. Now, on a good day, the politicians are usually blinded by ambition and cannot see beyond 2023. But they too now, in response to the pressures of the fears of the people, are rushing to try and secure a political resolution that instead of solving the problem, is actually playing into the script of the terrorists.
Yeah, I understand your point. Now, something I want to ask you, because you look at the resolution of the governors, it would appear, because you talked about diagnosis, it would appear their own diagnosis now of the problem is that, look, the reason why we seem to be having the current security challenge in the country is because first is the open grazing, that is a problem, so that if you solve the problem of open grazing, part of the problem will be solved, and that another reason is the issue of restructuring, that if you do not restructure, you would continue to have this problem. They talked about federal character and state police. And then you begin to ask yourself, could it be their diagnosis is correct? And if it's correct, could it then mean that there is some level of politicking involved in all of this violence?
Very good. Now, I don't like us to mix up issues. I think you are correct in the posit that what they're offering us are what I call political palliatives. That's like somebody comes to you and says, I'm not well, these are the symptoms, and you say, take an aspirin, and if you don't feel better in the morning, come back to me. Let me say again, and I like to quote, I've said before that the solution to this whole problem resides in the Southwest. There's something that God has invested in the southwestern part of the country, that if we are smart and wise enough, we will be the one to trigger the real solution to this national problem. The same Obafemi Awolowo has said something. He said, mankind has reached a stage of development today when it would be inexcusable ignorance, plain stupidity, and unpardonable dishonesty on the part of any society, of any nation, or any community to adopt an unscientific approach to any of its problems. Now, number one, between you and me, I've told you that the quality of thought has come so low that because of terrorism, we are looking at political palliatives instead of a cure. Number one, the overarching solution to the national problem must be designed in such a way that it does not give room for the splintering of the nation or oxygenating the cries for those who are looking for the future in the past. I can tell you, based on Obafemi Awolowo thought processes, that if you imagine that in 1964, we had already, 1956, in the Southwest, we had already established the Western Nigeria Livestock Company. If you remember very well then, one Chief Gabriel Akindeko, well, someone who was our father's contemporary, was the Minister of Agriculture for Western Region. Don't forget about the Fashola cattle breeding settlement that we had. Don't forget about the Ndama stock that was brought in from Mali. And the fact that this Ndama stock in those days was on the hoof, was weighing 500 kg on the hoof, compared to the 200 kg of the Fulani cows that are being brought through grazing. Now, don't also forget that apart from the one in Ilora, the Fashola grazing center, a big center in Ilora, which was actually initially established by the British in 1946. But when Obafemi Awolowo took over, remember that we had ranches in Odeda, we had ranches in Imeko, in the Pew, in the Ishara, in the present of the state. We had ranches in, if I want to recall very well, in Samonda, in Ibadan. We had in Shaki. We had in Iwo. Then I think there was one in Agege. There was one in Ikorodu, and so on and so forth. Now, as long as this cattle breeding centers were there, a need was met. Now, it is imbecilic, and I'm going to say this again because I see what is happening, and I see that we are getting closer and closer to falling into the trap of the terrorists who want to destroy this nation. I tell you something that it is imbecilic for us to look at a profession and a need that can be met by simple intelligence and throw away critical thought and politicize something. Can you imagine if today we began to demand from the federal government that palm wine tappers want bases all over the nation? What kind of argument are we even entertaining? And who is it that has, I don't know who we offended, that we have brought our thinking architecture of thought down to this kind of levels that we ought not to even entertain at all. And even if Northern Nigeria is feeling the terror more, the heat has been less on Southern Nigeria, even though it was inevitable.
Absolutely.
And we have a window now in which we can think more clearly to sort out this problem of a new war form that is decimating the nation, collapsing it from within, a new war form that spots asymmetrical warfare, produces hybrid threats, a new war form that uses the terror in a clinical way to break the will of the nation, to divide us, exploiting all the gaps, all the crevices, all the fault lines that have ever existed in our structures, and will pull us down if we listen to this political cadre who, no matter what we do, are not statesmen and have uppermost on their mind their political careers. So first of all, let us rule out that thinking that this so-called solution, political solution, will give us any reprieve. Now let's come to the restructure. When I want to talk about the restructure, I want to remember again something that Obafemi Awolowo said. He said it is undebatable that Nigeria was a British creation, and that at independence we inherited from the British wholly, they handed over to us a Nigeria that had the forces of its own disintegration embedded in it. And Obafemi Awolowo said there are three things that we must aim to do immediately. The first, he said, was to halt the forces of disintegration. Now, the restructuring that these people are talking about I was going to be silent, but we are about to enter another trap again. Now, I want us to understand that the difference between restructuring Nigeria and reprogramming Nigeria is the difference between a typewriter and a computer.
Please educate us more.
Now, there's an old school of leadership, old school of thought, which I have said to you, does not match up with Obafemi Awolowo's standards. Now, where Nigeria has reached today, a solution that would have worked in 1963, in fact, a solution that would have worked in 1978. In fact, let me even say this to you, in the year 1980, Professor C.O. Taiwo was launching a book on education in the Western region, but it was about education in Nigeria. And one of the things Obafemi Awolowo pulled out and quoted was that he pointed out that by the year 1906, the gap of education between within southern Nigeria and northern Nigeria was 50 years, the gap. He said, by 1980, the gap had moved to 75 years. And Awolowo then mentioned that by 1990, the gap will move to more than 100 years. And he had mentioned then that the moment this gap goes to more than 100 years, listen to me, he said the things that will begin to happen are too gruesome to be mentioned in the quasi-academic forum where he was speaking there. Now, that is even based on the old problems not even factoring the new war form, this clever war form, this global resource war form, this war form that attacks the nation and puts most in high places in the corridors of power to disable the country's defenses from within. So how on earth can we look at a diagnosis that is pop and plain a global secret, open secret globally? We ignore it, and then we begin to create these red herrings, which will give people hope for a very short while. But I'm saying this openly because I want especially the people of the Southwest to know that we have something that can solve this national problem, and that instead of us presenting the solution to the nation, we have joined this political palliative so that in the day when parents begin to lose their children, they must not forget to call the names of the governors.
So let me ask you this. In place of restructuring, what exactly would you be proposing?
I'm saying that as of 1980, restructuring could have worked. We are saying now that Nigeria has moved to the place where the corruption has become endemic, the value of human worth has descended to a great low. We have gone beyond mere restructuring. What we need to do to our nation right now to protect it from external aggressors and internal disorder is that we must reprogram the whole of Nigeria.
When you say reprogram, how do you mean?
Well, this is what I'm about to say to you. There's a proverb in the Southwest that says that, let me say it in our local lingo first, it says, "Omode mogowa, bamogowa, lafida leife." Omode mogowa, agbamogowa, lafida leife. Now, the NSAS generation, or shall I say just the younger generation, are a generation who understand artificial intelligence. They understand deep learning, machine learning. They understand nanotechnology. This is a generation that understands programming, and they know that if a program is at work, the only way you can beat a program is to write another program to override the program that is working. A rearrangement of elements, structural elements, will not bring a solution to the problems in Nigeria. Let me ask us, even if we restructured and went back to the 1963 Constitution, as the older generations are wants to prescribe, do they think that the present devaluation of human worth, the degree of corruption, the problem that has been internalized in the heart of the average citizen today
will disappear,
will respond anymore to the kind of things they're talking about? Look, I have kept quiet for quite a while, but when I look at what is ahead for the younger generation, who are the ones dying in the fields? If I start explaining the difference between programming and restructuring right now, it will take us a full interview. But ask the NSAS generation what programming means, and let them tell you the difference between rewriting the program of Nigeria. We need a new nation. We need a new nation.
Let me also, I understand your point. And another thing I want to ask you, especially on the issue of security now, we had them, the governors now call for a state police. What's your take on that?
Now, I said I'm going to say to you that on the 16th of July in 1952, for you to know that the architecture of thought that can solve these problems will come from the Southwest, because we have a legacy that prepared us for this. Now, on the 16th of July 1952, Obafemi Awolowo made a statement. He said, "It is our duty." 1952. He said, "It's our duty to aim at the erection of a new edifice, much nobler in conception. If I remember very well, more artistic in design, and more imposing in structure and extent than anything we have ever contemplated." What am I trying to say to you is this. When Obafemi Awolowo gave us 10 golden years in the Western region, it was because he applied an analog upgrade to the Omoluabi construct that has a high value for human worth. To solve the national problem Nigeria has today, we have to sort out the problem of devaluation of human worth, where you can just be slaughtering pregnant women, anybody, killing people, students, children, anyhow, and have people negotiating, not caring that there's so much damage going on.
And the question is, how do you do that? Just how do you do that?
Very simple. Awolowo gave us an analog update in his days, which means he applied telephony, he applied modern transportation, he applied television, radio, and all the modern upgrades of his time to value to human worth. For us to do that today, all we have to do right now is to allow the NSAS generation, the younger people, let them bring in nanotechnology, quantum computing. I talked about artificial intelligence. I talked about machine learning. I've talked about the fact that there's so much advancement in the world today that if Baba Awolowo was alive, listen, education would have been revamped completely to e-learning. We can hold a national conference, and I'm avoiding all the political words that have become, cliche.
Let me just quickly ask you this because of time now. What's your take on this issue of state police that the governor's called for?
I was initially very excited about state police until I had a conversation with one of our elder statesmen, Ahmed Joda, who now told me his experience in the days of the Native Authority, how they rejoiced when the federal police structure was announced. And when he described for me what life was like under the Native Authority police, and we found that the corruption then was something else, they rejoiced when the federal structure came. So again, the answer now is that a restructuring of the police without a reprogramming of the police will take us back to square one.
Yeah, because I was just going to say that look, whatever you restructure, if you do not restructure the people, or the people do not change, I don't see how anything would change. It's difficult to see how anything would change. But thank you very much. Yeah, go on. You want to say something?
No. All I'm just pointing out to us now is that if we allow the younger generation to get more involved in these decision-making processes, they will show you how on the e-platform, using the digital platform, we can hold conferences that have cost Nigeria 5 billion, and it will not even cost us 300 million. And we'll get a more robust representation of Nigeria to build consensus, mold opinion for the birth of a new nation.
And something about this national dialogue that the governors are calling for, the question you ask is, who are those who are going to go for this national dialogue? We've had series of national dialogues in the past. Almost every administration since 1999 had run a similar thing. And it's still the same people who go there to talk, and at the end of the day, nothing happens. So the question is, at the end of the day, the people who actually go to talk are not the people fighting. It's actually the people who are friends. So how then, I don't really know how the talking, the national dialogue that these governors are calling for now, I don't know how it will solve the problem. We've got a lot, we've done a lot of talking, but we've never acted on any of them, and the files are, we understand the files are somewhere gathering dust. Is it difficult to pick up these files, dust them, and then look at what we can take from these files and run with?
Okay, let me put it like this clearly. What Nigeria needs right now is not just good leadership. We need exceptional leadership. Now, let me borrow one or two things from His Royal Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum of Dubai. He was the one that said that when you are confronted with a problem, you can either do a case study of what others have done to solve the problem, or you can put on your constructive thinking cap to think up a brand new solution that nobody else has ever ventured into. Number two, he said something, and I'm going to quote him now. He said, nations are only as successful as their younger generations. And he said, achieving success is a national responsibility that is not bound only to the government. It's not only the government. The private sector has a part to play. Socio-cultural, religious have a part to play. So what we need is a leadership that can build consensus to show Nigerians that one more election right now, based on this present trajectory, or the political palliatives, will lead us faster to destruction. There will be no nation to talk about. So we need a consensus builder who carefully knows something. We are Africans, we care. Go around the whole of Nigeria, the fabric of the individual citizen. The constructs that are confusing us are political constructs that we inherited. The average Nigerian citizen is a good person. So you find out that with innovation, creativity, principled leadership, we will find a solution before 2023 that will birth for us a new nation where the NSAS generation will also be allowed to input, so that we stop looking for the future in the past, but we will rather learn from the past and create a totally new future to leapfrog Nigeria to the forefront of global civilization. We can do this.
All right. Rev Ladi Thompson, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining us in the program.
The pleasure has always been mine.
Thank you, sir. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be right back.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.